Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to be going over primary constructors. So if I want to have a class, let's say a person, and I have a couple properties, age, first name and last name, and I want the user to initialize them, I could just declare a normal constructor, public constructor, taking an age, a first name, and a last name, and then set the values to all three of those properties. And then I have a toString method here that just prints out the person. So I could do that, and I just say var Joe equals new person. Let me just do this. Person Joe equals new, and then let's say he's 120 years old. Joe Smith. And then I can write this person out, and it'll give me my toString output. Should say hello, I'm Joe Smith and I'm 120 years old once this compiles. Nice. So that works, but this is a little verbose. Like you can see here, I'm just setting age once, first name, so I have to create this init accessor, and then I have this whole constructor in here, and I've only got this logic in here. I'm just setting property values. So what I could actually do is, it's actually giving me the suggestion right here, I could use a primary constructor and it'll convert all of that into a primary constructor. And what this is I just deleted my whole constructor body and I just placed it right here next to the class name. It looks kind of like a record syntax if you've ever created a record. And now I could even make this less verbose by just doing this. And I've just saved myself a whole lot of code. But there are a few things that you can't do with these primary constructors. So let's say I wanted to make sure the age was less than 100 years old. Let's say you can't be over 120, or sorry, over 100. Let me just convert all these to our nice syntax here. So let's say I don't want you to be above 120. Sorry, above 100. If I go back to my previous, my previous constructor, where'd it go? There it is. Okay, if I go back to my previous constructor, I could have done that by saying if age is greater than 20, let's I don't know, let's throw a new argument exception. Stop lying. So right here I can do some input validation inside of my constructor, but you'll notice that that little suggestion to convert everything to a primary constructor went away. And that's because if I go back to our primary constructor, I can't put any other code here. Right here I can only declare properties or fields and assign values to them. So I can't actually declare any code, or sorry, I can't actually write any logical operations here. What I can do though is if I created a method called, let's just make this private, and let's say static validate age, and we take in static bool age is valid, and we take in age, and then all we have to do here is return that the age is less than or equal to 120. Right, that's all we need to do to validate. Sorry, less than. Why did I keep using 120? Less than or equal to 100. That's all we have to do for our validation, right? As long as this is met, or I guess age is also greater than 0. This is all I have to do for my validation, right? Because I just have to make sure the age is within this inclusive range of 0 to 100. And then what I can do is I can use the ternary if operator. So I can just say that age is going to be equal to, I can just validate this age right here. Age is valid, right? And I can then say if it is valid, I'll just do the age. Otherwise, I'm just going to throw a new exception. Whoa. I can't type today. age is invalid. Right here, this is actually going to execute the code a bunch of times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to our old syntax of get and then private init. Actually, don't need to make this private, but whatever. So now it's going to validate the age, and then if it's valid, it'll just set age to age. Otherwise, it's going to throw an exception. And then I can do that for the rest of these. So just copy this over here. I can do that for the rest of these. Like, let's make sure the person actually has a name. I can say argue an exception dot throw. Wait. Throw if null or empty. Oh, sorry, this is a standalone. I can say string that is null or empty, and then if it's null or empty, I can throw my exception, or let me just negate this condition here. If it's not null or empty, I'll take my first, then I'll say throw a argument exception, and I'll say null or empty or invalid name, and then we can copy this whole thing over. So right here I can do some basic input validation. All I need to do is create a method in which it has the validation logic for my whatever the parameter I'm being passed, and then use a ternary if operator to assign that accordingly or throw an exception. So you can do a little logic, but it's not to the point where you're gonna have all the logic you could do in a normal constructor. So if you need a lot of logic in your constructor, then you're still gonna want to use your normal constructor. But this, for most cases, this primary constructor reduces a lot of code that you have to write. Yeah, and we can also, like, we can delete all of these. So if we delete all of these and we don't actually assign age first and last to anything, but we use them, if we actually use them somewhere in the members of our class, so I'm using them in a property right here, and then I'm going to use them in a, let me delete this validation thing, and I'm going to use them in a method, you'll notice these parameters are actually going to be able to be used around my class. Even though I've not actually assigned them to any fields, they're being used in different instance members. And what the compiler is doing is it's actually generating private fields for these parameters behind the scenes so that these automatically generate private fields. The one drawback of this is that if you don't like explicitly, like I could also explicitly public read only int age equals age. I could explicitly make this a public read only field, but if I don't do this, this is always going to be a read write private field. But yeah, that's just one of the conveniences. If you want a read write private field, you don't even have to do anything. You can just make it a parameter in your primary constructor, don't assign it to anything, and it'll be used that way. But if you want to add different modifiers like read only, or if you want to make it public, or have some other behavior like put in a property or something like that with custom behavior, you're gonna have to use it or assign it somewhere down here in your properties. And just to show you this last thing, if we print out Joe, I removed the validation, so this is gonna still run. But you can see this runs the same exact way, where even though I've not assigned this to any properties, the compiler is generating hidden fields for these, so I can use them around my class. So that's basically it for primary constructors. If you liked the video, make sure to like and subscribe or leave something in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one.